it's perfectly possible for the request to say, in a data mining sense, well, we don't know who we're looking for, but find us somebody who was accessing this website or this IP address on a certain date, and then accessing this IP address on a week later, and then maybe who was talking to this other internet user with this email address. So the request can actually be formulated very abstractly as almost an open-ended data mining query against a particular ISP's entire body of data. Do you know if this varies across any transpositions that have so far occurred, or if the directive itself would hinder or allow that sort of data mining query?
Okay, I'll take the first question. A decision of the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg would be binding only between the parties, so between Ireland and the person suing them, Digital Rights. But the European Convention itself is binding for all member states. You're right in that it's not binding for the EU itself, but the European Court of Justice in Luxembourg, which is competent for the European Community and Union, recognizes the human rights as recognized in the European Convention as case law, as common law in all member states, and it basically implements this European Convention of Human Rights as well as the jurisprudence of the European Court of Human Rights into its own jurisprudence. So basically it would almost certainly say that this directive is disproportionate if the European Court of Human Rights had said so.
Yeah, on the data mining question, I think there are several layers or possibilities of data mining. First of all is, of course, reverse lookup. If you want to know from the retained data which IP number was assigned to Caspar Bowden on a specific day, you of course want to do it the other way around. Who had this IP number when? And then, oh, it was Caspar. The other thing is to do, I wouldn't exactly call it data mining, I would call it a dragnet investigation or something. I'm not exactly sure about the English term. The German term is Rasterfahndung, where you have some specific criteria saying, I don't know, has called this and that number more than 20 times in this time, has done this from prepaid mobile phones in the area of Greater Berlin or something. And then give me all people who match these criteria. There was a German Constitutional Court decision earlier this year that said, because they did it in Germany right after 9/11 in 2001, and they said it could be possible to do this for the government, for law enforcement agencies, but only because it's such a severe breach of privacy and so on. They can only do it under clear and present danger. And this is, of course, like if you have an immediately upcoming terrorist attack or something like that. It's, of course, not really proportionate to do this for catching teenagers who share music online. You know, data mining would be one more step. You know, just taking the whole database and see if you can find patterns where you don't have any criteria in the first place. I think that they wouldn't even try to do that anyway. But of course, I mean, the thing is, this is a legal situation as far as I understand it. I'm not a lawyer. But of course, once this data is retained and is sitting there for 6 months or up to 2 years in some countries, of course it creates new interests and curiosity, and people will want to use it, of course. And I'm sure there will be a security politician who will say, we have an obligation to access this data and mine it and do whatever we want in order to save our children, and you know, it's out there, why shouldn't we use it? So data minimization, don't store it in the first place.
What kind of quality, or is there any link between the data retention and the Cybercrime Convention we had a few years ago, that discussion here? Is there any link? Because maybe it's only a part what we're seeing here and we're heading the next years. Maybe it's a quite bigger issue what we're heading for.
Well, I think with regard to the Cybercrime Convention, it's a bit ironic that that NGOs thought that it was so horrible at the time, and now looking at it from the data retention perspective, it looks almost okay when you read through the paragraphs. As far as I recall, the Cybercrime Convention has content data for a shorter period, for a 3-month period. And we've actually, that part has been implemented in Denmark for a couple of years now, but it hasn't been used very much.
The Cybercrime Convention basically is about mutual cooperation between states that are signatories to it, meaning that one state can ask the other, we need you to intercept data on one of your citizens because we need it in the course of a specific criminal investigation. And it doesn't require data retention, but it uses data preservation, meaning that one member state can ask another to have data preserved that is already existent, or one member state can ask another to have data recorded for the future that is not yet existent. But it doesn't say anything on data retention. So how this is important in relation to data retention is only in regard to the access to data that is already existent. If you retain data for 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, then all other states signatory to the Cybercrime Convention can request that data if they need it in the course of a specific investigation. And there are states among that, like the US, like Azerbaijan, and Eastern European states or Russia, where you can't be sure at all what will happen with that data that you have forwarded. I mean, you forwarded it for a certain specific case, but the Department of Homeland Security may well retain the data for another 40 years.
Konrad Zuse, Der rechnende Raum. Ein Audio-Feature der Hörspielwerkstatt der Humboldt-Universität zu Berlin.
Ich will nur einblenden, unser Treffen morgen.
Professor Konrad Zuse wird als
I'm just showing you here the date of our meeting tomorrow, 3 p.m. Saal 4, if you would like to discuss campaigns that are planned for next year against data retention of the German Working Group on Data Retention, but it will be held in German and it will be a working discussion, but it's public for everyone to join. Thank you.